I am blue, you are bright and shiny in my mind. You got me loving, hating, crazy indecision in my mind.
Welcome to the Fall Podcast, where the focus is on deer hunting, tips, tricks, tactics, and stories from across the Midwest. And now, here is your host, Aaron Blicey.
Okay, we are hot, we are live, and we are back for our, second annual, you could call it Kansas Deer Camp review.
Life on the road.
Life on the road. We did this last year, I think basically a year ago today, almost. But I thought it'd be good to get on here and do some updates of where we're at and what's going on. But also I want to dive into some relevant stuff that's happening right now. I mean, it's October 26th. The rut is getting ready to kick off here, and I want to get into that stuff as well.
Oh, yeah. The end of October, there's always lots to talk about when it comes to deer hunting.
Yeah, it's definitely what we, as deer hunters, look forward to all year, and it's here. So it's time to make hay while the sun is shining. So I'm just going to get my cot here. It is Saturday afternoon, and we are just kind of taking it easy.
Yeah, for a change.
Yep, watching some football, and we just found out that the wind has switched for tonight, which is really not very ideal for the situation that we want to be in.
Well, not only, choking on my tongue. Not only is the wind switching, it's actually the entire sit. It's going to switch.
Yeah.
1 hour it's north, then it's northwest, and then it's west, and then it's west-southwest, and then it's southwest.
Well, and then tomorrow it goes to, what'd you say, southwest?
Yep, and then tomorrow night, though, it's going to circle all the way around to northeast. So
that's, I don't get what it's doing.
Yeah,
it's Mother Nature.
It's Kansas. It's being Kansas.
Exactly. Well, let's kind of give everybody an update to, where we're at right now. And then, we were down here, when did we get here? The 10th of October?
Yep.
And stay for a week. And that trip was kind of a, last couple years, the deer were starting to show up on camera that time. And we thought it'd be good to be here to try to catch them. And, we saw a couple good bucks first couple of nights we were here, and then it just kind of slowly petered out.
Yep. I think that trip, it was let's see if we can get down there early and get on one. I think what we ran into is that kind of transition, because if you think about it, all the crops, even the beans in particular, still had leaves and everything. And then by the time we left, they were starting to lose them. So I think anytime you can pay attention to the changes like that, you can start to realize that the deer are probably changing as well.
Gonna change,
Yeah. So I think they kind of got out of that summer pattern and started to transition during that week that we were here, and it's kind of getting up and roaming and, trying to figure out what their next move is. So
yep.
I think we hit a little bit of that for sure.
And go figure, the first night we go to Mission Impossible and Keegan sits top of junkyard. Casper walks to 20 yards in front of him with no weapon because he was scouting.
I mean, seriously, we had two options. It was Mission Impossible, and we're talking the first sit, like the first night,
sit of the year.
It's like, all right, first sit, here we go. We can either go top of junkyard into the banks, or we can go Mission Impossible into a Millennium double set. And I hadn't hung in a tree yet, so at least from a hunting perspective, I obviously filmed you in Iowa, but I was all about, I just want to be in a tree again.
Get in a tree.
Yeah, get me in a tree again. It's going to feel so good. And that was the wrong move.
Yep. What do you do? And then it just happened to us again last night.
Yep.
We go sit in Nomad, and the Reconic cell cams go off, and there's Casper, same deer that Keegan had, in front of the mousetrap stand.
Yep.
That we were going to go sit as well.
Yep, and another big 8. So that's
a big 8 as well, yeah.
Twice so far this season, and they both been first night sits when we got down here. So it's, they zig and we zag, and that's the story of a whitetail season.
It is.
Although, we were talking about a little bit last night, I got to start going with my gut more.
Yeah.
I don't know, I got to go with my gut. I got to roll with what I think's going to work.
Well, and that's not only you. I mean, that's every deer hunter, whitetail hunter. It's always, you always overthink things you think, and you always put these scenarios into, the wind, maybe it's not wind, but if deer come out here, it's almost like you're looking for a reason to not go there, but it's not that. It's there's so many things that could be a factor. You always put in those factors, and then it's like, oh, you're trying to weigh those factors, and we didn't see a deer last night, and then Casper and that big 8 were in front of that stand. So
but it's the thing that's weighing on me right now is we have no shakes on camera.
Yep.
We have no bob on camera. We have no sundown on camera. We have no stew on camera. We have no Gaylord Fokker on camera. We have no dolly on camera. We have a lot of deer still missing. But I'll also throw this out there. We have the Warhorse, who now you and I have 2 confirmed sightings with.
Yes.
And we haven't seen that deer nor got a picture of that deer in 2 years.
2 years.
I mean, what the hell?
Well, and Bob Barker, too. I mean, Bob Barker was here last year, and he's back.
Yep.
But
and way bigger. I thought
way bigger.
I honestly thought winter kill. He gone. I thought he was toast.
Yeah.
After last year, the shape he was in. I mean, he was rough looking. I thought, that deer's just the winter's gonna kill him.
Yeah.
And he's back this year, and he's a stud.
He's big.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
And he weighs 645 pounds.
And he's 13 and a half years old.
Yeah. So I think my point to saying that is, back to your point about you're almost looking for a reason not to go somewhere. Some of these stand sets that we have, I'm just overly cautious, especially when it comes to the wind, because the potential for shakes to just step out is there.
Yep.
If you're doing things properly.
Exactly.
If you go in there and you're risky with the wind, or you're trying to slide one by, chances are you're not going to see him. But the fact that, and then on the other hand, we don't have him on camera yet. So, I mean, hell, he could be coyote bait right now.
Well, that's the thing, too. It's you got to take those things into consideration no matter what, like you said. Even if everybody's got their own shakes, whatever it is, whatever he is, and you got to take those things into precaution. And, that's just the factors that you have to weigh out, I guess. And, because we're literally 10 minutes talking about going to check the cameras down here in the bottom, and we got, ideally it's best to check them on a south wind, and we don't have a south wind right now, so we're staying out. We haven't checked those cameras in, a couple weeks now, and we want to get down there and check them, but.
And I could be down there and check those cameras in 15 minutes, 20 minutes, we'd be done.
Yep.
But it doesn't make sense to do it on a north wind.
Yep.
Why risk it on a north wind when I know I can't screw anything up if I do it on a south wind?
Yep.
So, it's just those little extra precautions. Like I said, Shakes could step out. Hell, he could be living down. He could be all over Dawson's Creek camera right now.
We just don't know.
We just don't know because we haven't checked it.
Right.
So, it's that mental game. The mental game begins.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, I want to get into some relevant stuff here, and like I said, it's October 26th, and personally, the next 7 days usually is my favorite time to get in the woods and really get into, because you're gonna see, typically you're gonna see more mature deer up on their feet, and which we have. The last couple, yesterday we saw some mature deer up on their feet midday, because they're looking for the first doe and heat. But we're seeing a lot of ground scrapes and a lot of deer hitting scrapes, and on trail cams we're getting a lot of deer that are sparring and starting to fight a little bit. So I want to start off by talking about scrapes and hunting scrapes, and your tactic for hunting right now. What's the first thing you're going in for right now? Let's say you just showed up to a spot and you're going to do a little bit of glassing, and you're going to try to find these deer and where they're at. I get that, but are you going to try to hunt some scrapes, or are you going to get in there? Are you going to use those for intel, and are you going to hunt other places?
So scrapes are a tricky subject. I think first and foremost, the thing that I love scrapes for, particularly community scrapes, which are the ones you hear guys talk about all the time when they say it's the size of a hood of a truck.
Yep.
Those are community scrapes, right? The thing that community scrapes are phenomenal for, in my opinion, is intel.
Yep.
Those are gigantic signposts that every whitetail in that area, if they come by, they're gonna do it.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna go up. They're gonna leave their scent. They're gonna they're going to make it known that they're in this area. So I really like using community scrapes for intel. When it comes to hunting scrapes, that's a whole different ball game.
Right.
A lot of times the majority of scrape activity is after dark.
Yep.
But I kind of like to look at scrapes as opposed to an individual scrape. I try to back it up. Like imagine you're looking at a map and you zoom out into the sky and you're looking down, right? I try to figure out from scrapes direction of travel. Like, can that scrape or that scrape line reveal where a buck is going from A to B?
Mm-hmm.
Where is A and what is B as the final destination and how is he getting there? So if you can start to uncover some solid scrapes, that directionally makes sense from bedding to feed or from bedding to bedding or, something along those lines, then I think it's worth setting up in that area. Now, there's always the exception to the rule. There's always the exception of, you might be dead smack in the core of a deer's area and he's got 5 or 6 scrapes in that turf that he checks
That's his
religiously.
cycle. Yeah.
Yes, every single day, right? We've got one right now over on the road stand
Yes.
that's got that old mature 8 that, he's coming in there every day.
That's his core area.
Yep. He's coming in, he's hitting that scrape every single day. I happen to think the Warhorse has got a scrape over under that cedar.
Yep.
That we've seen him at twice now. And you bet your ass that we're going to go in there and check.
Mm-hmm.
And we should do that today on a north wind.
We have a good wind for it.
Yeah, we got a great wind to do it today. But again, I think that's his core turf, right?
Yep.
2 years ago, I got a picture of him 150 yards from there. And
then yesterday, midday, saw him. And then
there.
this morning, saw him in the same spot.
Exactly.
We saw him yesterday.
Exactly. So, I know that's a long-winded answer, but it really boils down to the giant hood of the truck scrapes or community scrapes are phenomenal for intel. And listen, community scrapes are also good to hunt over.
Yeah.
I would not hesitate to hunt over a community scrape. As a matter of fact, I think, over in the road stand.
We could go kill that deer in the next 3 days,
and
probably.
And that is a community scrape that's there.
Yes.
Right. So I think, your odds increase of seeing numbers of deer and, having potential multiple shooters come by if you are over top of a community scrape. I think when you get to individual buck scrapes, if you're not trying to follow a pattern or you're not trying to look at it as a travel route,
right.
I think you slim your chances way down.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just hoping, by chance he comes through there in the daytime because, in my experience anyway, majority of scrape activity, aside from field edge scrape stuff like that, is done under the cover of darkness.
You're talking about field edge scrapes. So what do you look at those as? Are those just kind of like would you hunt those or, what kind of scenario would you hunt them in if you would? And why, I guess, are there field edge scrapes if you have an answer for that in your opinion?
Yeah, so field edge scrapes, I think a lot of times, again, I come back to natural travel corridors for deer, right?
Yep.
You got a finger of timber or something that stretches out into a field. Their chances are the deer are going to walk that finger of timber long before they ever walk out through the wide open field.
Yep.
So that's kind of how I try to boil it down and how I try to look at all of those things. And you and I have talked about this before, but it's kind of something that, maybe the audience would like to hear is when it comes to hunting this time of the year, I'm still looking for what do deer do? What's a very deery thing for deer to do?
Yep.
I think we can get so caught up in trying to, hunt over a particular scrape or hunt rub lines or something like that. But still, I try to go back to the very basics of a deer lives at A and he travels through B to get to C, right? Whether it's bucks or does. And I don't think you can go wrong that way. You're going to see more deer that way. There's just those natural funnels, those natural corridors and travel routes that these deer take that by all means they should be scraping along the way. They should be rubbing along the way. They should be doing all the things that bucks do this time of year along the way, So when it comes to would I hunt over a field edge scrape? Well, yes, not in particular because it's a scrape that's there, but I would hunt it because it makes sense for the deer to utilize that field edge to travel.
Right.
And they happen to also be scraping, which tells me that they're there.
Right.
You know, so it's again, you know, the subject of scrapes and rubs and hunting over top of them. I mean, it's a tricky thing because
It really is.
You know, you could have one deer like the one we have over on the road stand that'll completely prove me wrong every single time that deer shows up to that scrape every day, and that's just what he does. You know, but I happen to think that's the exception to the rule, not the normal.
Yep. And right now, I mean, scrapes are being used for bucks are coming back and frequently checking those just because the does are hitting them too. You know, and they're trying to figure out what kind of estrus scent is laid out in there and try to find those does that could be nearby.
Yep.
You know, so that's in, you know, the road stand you're talking about, that old 8, I think that is his core. You know, I think he's right there. I mean, we saw him yesterday. We drove up to him in the CRP field with our electric Ranger. He had no idea we were there. 50 yards away, had no clue.
Yep.
And you know, and he's all over that camera. So that's pretty cool to see, but you know, and I got something to add too, like with the intel on scrapes, like I found even in Michigan out of my farms there, like especially in Michigan actually, you know, a lot of guys like to put cameras right on the scrape that the tree's on. I tend to like stay away from that a little bit because I've been burnt a couple times doing that. You know, it can make for some great pictures and great video, but you know, when the deer comes up right to that camera, and usually the tree's not very far from the licking branch, and you know, there's scent on it. I like to get it away, maybe, you know, a different direction on a different tree. Do you have any thoughts on putting cameras, you know, over scrapes and where to do it and why?
Yep, I don't put them on the same tree. I'm just like you are. I mean, unless that's the only situation.
Unless it's the only option.
Yeah, unless that's the only option. Like you look at where we saw the warhorse. I mean, there is no other place that you're going to catch him, you know, on that scrape. So I always try to go different tree. You know, road stand is a case in point. I think it's 15 yards, you know, 10 or 15 yards away on a different tree. You know, you just have to think that, you know, these deer are so familiar with these areas and they're so familiar with the terrain. One little thing shows up out of place like that, and you risk sending them, you know, over to the next property or sending
100%.
them to who knows, you know, where the hell they go. So, you know, and that's just a personal preference, and I try to be as unobtrusive as humanly possible with all my trail cameras. You know, even on crossings and stuff like that. Like you think about Junkyard Blind down in there, you know, that particular crossing, that camera's, you know, a good 15, 20 yards away from the actual crossing.
Yep.
There's spots I could put it right on the crossing, but
Yep.
why?
Yeah.
You know, why I don't need it there. If I can put it in a spot that's a little more tucked and a little more unobtrusive and still gather the intel I need, then that's the route that I take.
Yeah. You know, and right now, you know, like I said, it's the 26th, and the deer are starting to get a little frisky. They're starting to get into, they're starting to feel that testosterone when the air is changing, I feel like, and you know, some does are probably coming into heat. When I was in Michigan last week in hunting, I mean, one morning I had 3 bucks chasing does all over, grunting, everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's some younger deer doing it, and you're always going to get that. But the switch is going to flip here in a matter of days. I mean, and it's going to be on here, I think. I mean, here it might be I don't know, what's your thoughts on rut here right now where we're at?
So where we're in Kansas here, I think this rut is a little bit later traditionally than everywhere. At least in the last 3 years, that's been my experience.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to be as late this year as it has been. I think it's more towards mid-November to Thanksgiving on the late end. But I also, you know, I look at everything right now. You know, we've got great temperatures.
Great temps,
You know, these next 2 days are going to be a little warm, but for the most part, we got really good temps. We got, you know, nights down in the 30s, days in the 40s and 50s. We even have snow coming up,
3
supposedly.
inches
Yeah,
here.
they're saying 3 inches in October, which is just insane for down here. I mean, I can remember 2 years ago, you and I sitting in November in 75 degrees.
Yep.
So I think we got really good temperatures right now. I think, you know, start to take into consideration push and pull of the moon.
Yep.
You know, some moon times and what the moon's doing. Also phase of the moon, so where we're at, right? we're coming up. The full moon, I think, this year, 2019, is the 13th of November, I think.
Yeah, 12th or 13th, somewhere right in there.
Yeah, so you got to figure, that moon should kick the does actually into estrus, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if that moon kicks the does into estrus, then they got to be getting frisky leading up to that. And we're staring at 2.5 to 3 weeks from right now. So they don't have a lot of time to get their shit together. I think they're out and about right now. I think they're cruising. I think this weather continues to drop and get cold. We're gonna, keep seeing some really good activity, and that's another thing that, again, tricky subject is, what causes the rut. Well, there's 12 million different theories out there. You hear it all the time. Wow, it's warm. The deer aren't rutting.
Right.
Oh, yes, they are. They're just doing it under the cover of darkness at the coolest point of the day.
The rut happens every year.
It
does. It has to happen.
It has to. So, yeah, I mean, you go back and you start looking at, 196-day gestation period and start seeing when the bulk of the fawn crop drops. It has to happen every single year. So, but yeah, I think, this year we're shaping up to see a pretty good rut with, like I said, all things considered. Temperature is a factor and all that stuff.
Yep. Now, what's your opinion for the next 6 or 7 days? What are your thoughts? What's your game plan? Like, you and I talk about it a little bit, but like, what is your thinking for the next? Because we know what the weather's supposed to be. We know what the wind, what the moon, and everything's going to be.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on the next week?
I think we're getting over that period of time, and I think we ran into this the last trip that we were down here. There's that period of time where not long after the deer start shedding their velvet, you start to get into October, they start to change their patterns, and then they do, at least what I call, they go dark, right? Yep. I mean, a lot of people talk about the October lull. I personally think what it is I think it's a buck starting to move around more. I think they still stay relatively contained to the same area throughout the summer. I think it's him starting to, venture out. Okay, let's go check this over here. Let's go see if I can find some family groups of doe. I mean, it's almost they're doing their homework.
Right.
They're doing their due diligence and they're getting prepped up and ready because they only have a limited time once the rut hits to actually make it happen. So I think we're coming out of that right now. I think we've got some new deer showing up on camera, which is always good and exciting. Excuse me, I'm gonna yawn. I might be going into the October lull here soon enough. So anyway, I think we're coming out of that lull. So my tactic moving forward right now is to hunt does, to be honest.
Yep.
I want to start hunting the does because where the does are, the bucks will be. They might not be there right this second, but they're going to be there. So I'm gonna stick with, the food sources and trying to get on edges and travel routes and stuff like that. Because if I can hunt the does right now, the bucks are curious. Like you said, we've seen more mature deer on their feet in the last 2 days than we have all year.
Right.
So, it's only a matter of time until those bucks know those does go out into those fields to feed at night. They know that they're headed into the beans or wherever it may be. So guess what? I got a good wind. I'm going to go check.
Yep.
I'm going to go, walk that field edge and see if I can sniff out that early doe.
Yep.
That's just happening to come into heat. So I'm going to start there and we'll see what happens. From there, if we need to adjust and get buried in bedding areas, we can. But let's play it conservative. Let's watch it from a distance. Let's get out, and it's not like we're really at a distance. We're just hunting, more open field and stuff where we can see and we can observe a little bit better. So that's kind of my game plan.
Yeah, and I agree 100% with that. That's where I like to do is just go where the does want to be.
Yep.
Whether that be a food source, whether that be a staging area, or I don't know. I mean,
yep.
Monitor those cameras a little tighter now, I feel like. Find out where the does want to be, get there, and head the hole. I mean, that's the best thing you can do, because the thing is once the first week or second week of November hits, I mean, all hell's going to break loose, and you're not going to know where those does are going to want to be. The bean fields that have 30 does in it a night right now, is going to diminish a lot. And find those does, and the bucks will be there, because the bucks are getting frisky right now. The younger ones are going to start, come up and trying to check all these does, and the big ones will be there right there, just because the more mature buck's going to try to get the first doe in heat. So.
Sure. Well, and they're only going to put up with those young bucks. They're going to put up with their shit for so long.
Right.
And
Yep.
then it's going to become, I think you've got that unique time where, for a couple of days leading up to, when all hell breaks loose, you've got that, like, the old buck kind of walking around like, yeah, look at this dumbass, running around acting like an idiot. Well, a couple of days of that, and all of a sudden he becomes a threat to where it's like, you know what? He might get the first doe. I can't let him do that anymore.
Yeah.
I gotta step my game up.
Yep.
So
For sure.
and again, this is all just translation of how I try to think about it in my head. And then once all hell breaks loose, like you said, those fields that may have 20, 30 deer in them right now, I mean, shit, when you get all these bucks chasing and running and everything else, that's where those does are like, oh boy, they get real skittish, and you can just tell by how they act. And then I think even transitioning from there, the other place that I think we really need to pay attention to, or any bow hunter needs to pay attention to, is those little off-the-wall spots.
Yeah.
Where these bucks will take these does, especially the first ones in, where it's out of the way. It's not traditionally going to hold deer. It's an obscure location, but by gosh, they'll take them there.
Yep.
And they do that on purpose.
Yep.
They do that for a reason, because they don't have to want to deal with anybody else.
Yep.
Look back to even like Strong Arm last year. Yeah, October low. Jeez, sorry. Strong Arm last year.
Strong Arm?
Not Strong Arm. Not Strong Arm at all. Sundown.
Sundown.
Yeah, Sundown.
Yep.
You look at Sundown last year.
Yeah, in
where
the ditch.
Where he took that doe in the ditch. I mean, we've never seen a deer in there.
Nope.
The entire time that we've been down here. And sure enough, Sundown decided to take his doe right there. You know why? Because he knew there were no other deer there.
And that spot was bulletproof. I mean, we tried to do a stalk on him,
Yeah.
and we got to within, 30 yards of him, but there was no way we were going to get any closer. We couldn't see him. Like, he was on the edge of he was on the point of a ditch to a big open CRP field, and he knew that area, and he knew he wasn't going to get bothered over there.
Yep. He had us from the get-go. He was above us. He had the wind in his favor. He had that doe buried in that little patch at the top where, I mean, there was just no getting to him. No matter which way we came from, he had the drop on us.
Yeah.
So.
And there's another spot that I was thinking of the other day too. In the cornfield up top on the milk farm. There's that tower in the middle of the cornfield. It's probably an acre or 2 acres maybe of tall CRP
just
out in the middle of this cornfield.
Brush
with brush, and that's like a spot where I feel like you'd find a buck with a doe.
Sure. There's another one basically on that. It would be the south fence line. The fence line you walk in to get to the blind.
Yep.
That south fence line's got another.
There's that little jut out in there.
And a half patch.
Yep.
Of just buckbrush and shrub and, basically bullshit. Stuff that you write off. You look at it, you're like, no deer live in there. Well, they might not live in there, but guess what? You get a doe that comes in earlier, even in the middle of the rut, like, they'll take does into there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they're doing. They're looking for that seclusion so they don't have to compete with anybody.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. Well, cool. I just want to get on here and do a little update. We're up, 30 minutes here, and we got to get out and probably we should go scout that Warhorse area maybe.
Yep.
And, I could eat this rug right now. I'm so hungry, so I think I'm going to get some lunch. And
Well, we got a little chicken and dumpling today.
Yeah, can't wait. Little soup action.
Little deer camp classic.
Little soup action. So
yeah, we'll get out there and we'll go check out the Warhorse, and who knows, maybe we'll be back with an update sooner rather than later with a deer on the ground.
Hopefully, yeah, for sure. But for everybody out there that is following along on the podcast and wants to see some things that we're doing in the field right now, go to the Keefer Brothers YouTube channel and check out all the videos and the chapters that we're doing. Basically, we're doing week by week episodes that we're calling chapters. Year 9's Iowa just dropped 2 days ago, so that's on there. Chris's early season buck kill is on there as well, so go check out all that stuff. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and leave some comments in the comment section below. We really appreciate all the support, and we'll be back to you guys here soon with an update. Thanks for listening.